The Sith were once an empire, thousands of dark side users united under a single cause, waging war against the Jedi across the galaxy. But that empire didn't fall because of the Jedi alone. It collapsed from within. Infighting, betrayal, and the constant struggle for power made the Sith their own greatest enemy. And from that failure, a new idea was born. A system designed to eliminate weakness, enforce discipline, and ensure survival. It was called the Rule of Two. And while it would eventually lead to the destruction of the Jedi Order, it also planted the seeds of the Sith's own downfall. Before the Rule of Two, the Sith operated very differently. They were not limited to a master and an apprentice. Instead, they existed as large groups, often competing for dominance within their own ranks. Power was everything, and because of that, alliances were temporary, and betrayal was constant. The more powerful a Sith became, the more powerful they were targeted by others. This created a cycle. Strong Sith would rise, only to be destroyed by rivals before they could achieve anything lasting. The Jedi didn't need to defeat the Sith completely. The Sith were already weakening themselves. This internal instability made them predictable, and eventually it led to their collapse. Out of this chaos emerged one Sith who understood the problem clearly, Darth Bane. Bane saw that the Sith were not failing because they lacked power, but because they lacked structure. Too many Sith meant too much conflict. Too much conflict meant no long-term strategy. So he created a new system. Only two Sith would exist at any given time. One master and one apprentice. No more. The master would embody power. The apprentice would crave it. And through that relationship, the Sith would evolve, stronger with each generation. The Rule of Two was built on a simple but effective idea. The apprentice would learn everything from the master. Then when the apprentice became strong enough, they would challenge and replace the master. This ensured two things. First, the Sith would always grow stronger, because only the strongest would survive. Second, knowledge would be preserved. Instead of being lost in endless conflict, it would be passed down carefully. Over time, this created a lineage, each generation building on the last, becoming more refined, more controlled, more dangerous. The Rule of Two solved the Sith's biggest weakness, internal conflict. By limiting the number of Sith, Bane removed unnecessary competition. There were no large-scale rivalries, no chaotic power struggles. Everything became focused, controlled, strategic. The Sith stopped acting like an army and started acting like a long-term plan. They went into hiding, operating in the shadows, waiting, learning, adapting. While the Jedi believed the Sith were extinct, they were actually evolving. The Rule of Two was not designed for immediate victory. It was designed for patience. Each Sith master trained their apprentice not just in power, but in strategy, politics, manipulation, influence. Over generations, the Sith shifted their approach. Instead of direct confrontation, they began to infiltrate systems of power, governments, institutions, the Republic itself, and eventually this strategy would reach its peak with one Sith, Darth Sidious. Palpatine was the culmination of the Rule of Two. He didn't just rely on the Force, he understood systems, power structures, human behavior. He manipulated the Republic from within, created a war he controlled from both sides, and positioned himself as a solution to that conflict. This was not accidental. This was a result of generations of Sith refinement. Everything Bane had envisioned reached its full expression in Palpatine. But the Rule of Two was not perfect. It solved one problem, but created another. By limiting the Sith to only two individuals, it also limited their resilience. If both Sith were destroyed, the entire system would collapse. There were no backups, no large network, no redundancy. The Sith had traded instability for vulnerability. The entire system depended on a single relationship: master and apprentice. If that relationship failed, everything failed. Trust was never complete because betrayal was built into the system. The apprentice was expected to overthrow the master. The master expected it. This created tension, constant tension. And while that tension drove strength, it also made the system fragile. This weakness became clear during the time of Darth Vader. Vader was powerful, but he was not the ideal apprentice. He was conflicted, emotionally unstable, and more importantly, he never fully replaced Palpatine. The cycle was broken. Instead of evolution, there was stagnation. The rule of two depended on continuous replacement, but that didn't happen, and because of that, the Sith stopped progressing. In the end, the rule of two achieved its goal. The Jedi Order was destroyed. The Sith ruled the galaxy, but they could not sustain it because the system that brought them victory was not designed for stability. When Palpatine and Vader fell, there was no one left. No successor, no continuation. The Sith lineage ended. Not because they were defeated in war, but because their system allowed no recovery. The rule of two was one of the most effective strategies the Sith ever created. It transformed them from a chaotic empire into a precise, calculated force. It allowed them to survive in secrecy, to grow stronger over generations, and ultimately to destroy the Jedi Order. But that same system also limited them. It made them dependent, vulnerable, and unable to recover from a single failure. In trying to eliminate weakness, the Sith created a different kind of weakness. And in the end, that weakness cost them everything. For more such Star Wars mysteries, subscribe the Galactic Deep Lore.